place on 4th and 5th June 2026 at KICC Nairobi. Kenya Power, powering e-mobility, pamoja twanga. Watch it live only on KBC.
Do you know what's inside that prepackaged food? Those unhealthy ultra-processed foods high in sugar, salt or unhealthy fats can lead to diseases.
According to the Ministry of Health, approximately 39% of all deaths in Kenya are as a result of non-communicable diseases such as obesity, diabetes, cancer and high blood pressure. The foods and drinks we consume every day can affect our health more than we realize.
Clear information on packages about what's in our food can help us have a healthy diet. From the Food Policy Coalition Kenya.
We are independent. That is not me saying, but that is IEBC dismissing allegations of political manipulation of the 2027 general poll.
And the 5th East African Broadcasting Convention kicks off in Nairobi with calls for media to strengthen regional collaboration.
And what do we have in the world of business?
And in business, real estate developers are now shifting to dollar-denominated investments. Why? I'll tell you that coming up later in business.
And also in the world of sports, the World Athletics Council approves a system of vetting. We will be giving you those details at the tail end of this live broadcast. But first things first, a look at our top stories tonight.
Definitely the global economy, not the Kenyan economy, is the cost of freight.
People now want to deny the fact that this is a global problem. They want to make it a Kenyan problem, Madam Speaker.
Some have even suggested that we do away with the taxes and levies that is charged per liter of fuel. But I think this will not help us. It will even make the situation worse.
Intense debate in the National Assembly over proposals to reduce the cost of fuel.
A survey indicates that a staggering 97% of teachers are struggling with debt, burnout, and mental health.
SACCOs in crisis. 19 senior officials of Metropolitan National SACCO are accused of a 14 billion shilling fraud.
From wherever you're watching us in Kenya and around the world, welcome to Prime Edition. I am Mboya.
I am Muchuma Odim. Our sign language expert tonight is Caroline Joroge. Talk to us on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1 at KBC Digital.
That's right. Let's open this live broadcast with our top story now. Members of the National Assembly, allied to the broad-based government, have ruled out the possibility of reducing levies imposed on fuel to address the escalating prices.
They argued the move will cripple government services. Those opposing the high price margins, however, demanded fuel subsidy and removal of G2G deal, saying it had limited the country in diversifying sources of oil at times of crisis.
Give Us On Maina opens our coverage tonight with a look at that report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this.
The National Assembly on Tuesday adjourned business of the House to discuss the escalating fuel prices in the country. This comes after matatu operators went on a strike and paralyzed the transport sector over the high fuel prices. The lawmakers allied to the broad-based government said it is a global crisis and the Kenya Kwanza government was not to blame.
Part of what is bedeviling the global economy, not the Kenyan economy, is the cost of freight.
The wars that are happening around the world and even the situation in the Strait of Hormuz do speak to the cost and prices that are happening today.
Those opposed to the fuel price hike calling for the scrapping of the G2G oil arrangement, saying it limits the country from having diversified sources of fuel in case of crisis.
It is now time to call a spade and say the G2G has created a non-competitive market for oil procurement in this country, and it is time to audit and revise it.
Kiharu MP Ndindi Nyoro, who had requested for a special sitting to discuss the crisis, further called for subsidy and reduction of levies imposed on oil.
The fuel from Saudi Arabia does not pass through the Strait of Hormuz. So let us not keep on misinforming Kenyans. In the next 6 months, that we exempt fuel products from VAT. That is, we exempt the 8% that is there.
Their counterparts, however, decried that such a move could cripple government projects and services to Kenyans.
We are paying more taxes as a country is because we have more debts than Uganda, we have more debts than Tanzania. If we reduce our debts, give us a formula of how to reduce our debts, our taxes will come down.
We need the taxes so that we are able to develop our country, and especially the taxes on oil products which go towards development of our roads.
If we do away with the fuel levies, as has been suggested by some of us, and we will have a problem with our vehicles will get into problem because of potholes.
Some propose a projection of prices within 90 days instead of the current 30 days.
I want to encourage the creation of a refinery, whether we bring in the various countries around here regionally or within Kenya, so that we be processing the crude oil, which then will be a bit cheaper here.
Give us minor Prime Edition.
Let's stay with Parliament. The National Assembly Finance Committee now wants the Commission on Revenue Allocation to consider the poverty index over population in the development of the next revenue sharing formula.
Appearing before the National Assembly Budget and Appropriations Committee, Finance Committee Chairperson Kuria Kimani said that the current formula, which allocates a lion's share of resources to densely populated areas, negates the principle of shared prosperity.
This story was compiled by Gishuki Washira.
The Commission of Revenue Allocation is in the process of developing the fourth revenue sharing formula that will guide the equitable distribution of nationally raised revenue among Kenya's 47 counties. The National Assembly Finance Committee now wants the Commission to consider the poverty index and the cost of delivering services over population in allocation of resources.
We are asking them to change the weights so that weights like poverty index and landmass carry as much weight as population, so that those areas that are large in size, where the cost of even doing a road is a lot higher, then actually that counts in terms of the allocation of resources.
In the proposed formula, the Commission seeks to raise the weight of population from 18% to 42%, while retaining the weight of poverty index at 14%. The Commission of Revenue Allocation has also introduced a new factor in the proposed formula that seeks to compensate counties with a gross county product far below Nairobi, pushing funds to less productive areas.
The third generation formula was taking us back to 1965. Seasonal paper number 1 of 1965 on economic planning, where we focused so much on high potential areas and we forgot the rest of the country.
The new formula, which will be considered by Parliament, will be effective for 5 years. Gishoki Washira, Prime Edition.
Let's now take a look at the teachers' wellness state. 97% of teachers in this country are currently grappling with deaths.
Burnouts,
that's right, and also mental health issues. A nationwide survey on teachers' wellness conducted by the Kenya National Union of Teachers, NAT, between 2024 and 2026 has further revealed that 12% of the respondents admitted to having had, believe it or not, suicidal thoughts.
Here is that report.
All is not well in the education sector despite the sweeping reforms, if the findings of a survey on the daily struggles of teachers are anything to go by. The survey on teachers' wellness and engagement in schools that interviewed over 800 teachers revealed that 54% of teachers begin searching for alternative jobs within 3 years of employment. 4 out of 5 teachers persistently face financial instability, forcing many of them into debt traps.
We found out that financial literacy is the least rated dimension when it comes to wellness. 97% of teachers have no money left over at the end of the month, and they are living from payslip to payslip.
The most appalling area is the financial wellness of a teacher. That the teacher cannot save because the teacher has no money to save.
We must think about what should we do in that space to reduce that number, and we must borrow from the best practices in other institutions, in other countries. I don't know how many of you are aware that, for example, in Finland, the highest paid professional is a teacher.
Furthermore, teachers are also grappling with mental health, with 12% of the respondents admitting to have had suicidal thoughts.
And 70% of teachers have no access to counseling services. And of course, physical wellness was also a key item. And we learned that teachers actually do not have a preventative healthcare practice. They are very reactive. This means that they do not go for annual checkups during the year, even though they are covered by insurance. Teachers are practicing poor nutrition.
So what you say, as teachers, we live on by the grace of God, and we teach by the grace of God.
Education Cabinet Secretary Julius Migoso Gamba promised remedial action by the government as guided by the findings.
Reports, we take them seriously, and we look into ways and means continuously improving the circumstances under which our teachers are working.
Joseph Wahungu for Prime Edition.
Let's now have a look at other developments tonight. 19 current and former officials of Metropolitan National Sacco, formerly known as Kiambu Teachers Sacco, have been charged with 9 offences for allegedly defrauding teachers over 14 billion shillings.
Now, the Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions stated that the accused, though through a fraudulent scheme and multiple violations of Kenya's Sacco laws, tied to the management of the society between 2012 and 2021, failed to maintain proper books of accounts showing a true and fair state of affairs of the Sacco's financial position as required by the Sacco Society's regulatory authority.
And as Ruth Mboya reports, the court has issued warrants of arrest for 2 suspects who did not show up for plea taking.
Tuesday at Milimani's Law Court, and serving and retired officials of the former Kiambu Teachers Sacco, now Metropolitan Sacco, found themselves in the dock. The prosecution told trial magistrate Daisy Mutai that the accused conspired to defraud jointly with others not before court 14.4 billion shillings in a span of 9 years.
Apply for warrants of arrest against accused number 2, Samuel Mbuya. Accused number 11, Francis Wachurumbai, and accused number 18, Lucy Kabiru, who have not appeared before you. There's an indication that one of them is deceased, but we have not received any confirmation of herself.
Trial Magistrate Daisy Mutai also added that the official failed to establish and maintain a credit committee as required under prudential regulations.
We do not know the intention of the investigating officer when they were coming up with this figure, which is exaggerated and does not exist. I do not wish to go to the merits of this matter because we have an opportunity during the hearing.
The officials are also facing several other charges, including failure to maintain the legally required 15% liquidity ratio on member savings deposits and short-term liabilities.
For them to contribute to the tune of 14 billion Kenya shillings, it must have been a very serious and odious task for them. It means they have basically sacrificed blood and sweat for them to save these sums of money that are entrusted to the SACCO. And by extension, the people standing before you were given the duty to safeguard the same. Your Honor, they have failed to do so.
Pending pre-trial, the magistrate has released each one of them on a 200,000 shillings bond after pleading not guilty to the charges.
In the present case, what I find to be reasonable is as follows. I will grant bond of Kenya shillings 200,000 with one surety of a similar amount.
Those charged include Christopher Kauno Karanja, Samuel Ndungu Mwiruri, John Kimani Monyaka, James Kamau Ngugi, Patrick K. Kagwe, Francis Kamau Nganga, Benson Mwangi Nganga, Paul Kaberere, Geoffrey Wamae, Duncan Chege, Francis Washurumbae, George Muhia, Daniel Lee Kamau, Joseph Gashunga Mwaura, Boniface Mudhama, Rosemary Chege, Edward Duncan, Lucy N. Kabiru, and James M. Ngomo.
With the latest flag off by Sasra and the accused being charged, the question begs, are our money safe in SACCOs? Ruth Wamboi reporting for Milimani's Law Court.
Well, it's now 13 minutes past the top of the hour, and you're watching Prime Edition. Coming up,
residents of Robango in Homa Bay County took to the streets today, and we will tell you the reasons why they did that.
That's in Homa Bay.
Yes, your
also,
county, right?
Oh, yes, and also coming up, Kenya is now looking for sugarcane ethanol production. We will be having details of that story and much more when we return.
Stay with us.
That's right.
Nairobi is now. Masani ya kutoka blog na KBC imeamua lazima uomoke. Tutakuwa tunakaa mtaa yako kukuomosha very fast. Jibu maswali zangu 3 tuone kama kweli wewe ni true fan wa KBC Channel 1. Na ukizipata 25K ni yako. So make sure una watch KBC Channel 1. Alafu kinicheki kwa streets. Niulize kana kuomosha leo. Omoka na KBC Channel 1. Wanga bad ni mbaya.
Jina! Haki watoto wa siku hizi wakiwa wanasumbua. Usikose kuona Gundu KBC Channel 1 every Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. Ujionee hivi vituko vya watoto wa siku hizi wanaosumbua wazazi na mengine mengi. Keep it Gundu. Jina!
Wananiita Gundu, wakita wengine wata.
Welcome back to Prime Edition. Our socials are
KBC Channel 1 and KBC Digital.
It happens sometimes, but let's move to the second part of this live broadcast. The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, has dismissed claims of political manipulation on the outcome of the 2027 general poll, terming the allegations as misleading to the public confidence in the country's democratic process.
Even as the commission defended its independence, preparations for the upcoming Olkalau parliamentary by-election gathered momentum today, with the final batch of aspirants cleared to contest in the July 16th mini-poll.
Aaron Murray with the details.
Remarks by Kakamega Deputy Governor Ayubu Savula over the weekend suggesting that Kenya Kwanza administration will have influence in the 2027 general election continue to draw attention, with electoral body IEBC weighing on the matter. The Commission said in a statement that only the IEBC has the constitutional mandate to conduct and supervise elections in Kenya, warning leaders against spreading unverified claims that would undermine trust in the electoral system. The Commission further clarified that the Electoral Code of Conduct is currently not operational since no general election has been declared. Meanwhile, in Olkalau, the IEBC cleared the final batch of candidates seeking to replace the late area MP David Njuguna Kiaraho. Jubilee Party candidate Engineer Wilson Kigwa was among the first aspirants to be cleared.
Nimepata cheti cha kupigania au kuwania hii kiti cha Olkalau na chama cha Jubilee, na ningeomba wengine wale tunashindana na wao tuweke amani, misafara ikikutana tuheshimiane na tufanye kitu inaitwa kujua hiyo Olkalau ni yetu wote, na baada ya uchaguzi huu mdogo tutakuwa tu hapa tukishirikiana kupeleka maendeleo mbele.
The second candidate to be cleared was Sami Kamaungodho of DCP, who was escorted by a mammoth of crowd to the IEBC offices before successfully receiving clearance to vie for the Olkalau parliamentary seat.
Mimi niko fully registered na nimepitishwa kuwania kiti na tikiti ya chama cha DCP.
Others who also presented the papers for clearance in the afternoon were Stephen Wanyoike of NLP and PNU Edwin Moshiri.
Leo tulikuwa tumekuja hapa kupokea certificate yetu na bila shaka we are now confirmed. Tuko na certificate, tunawania.
Olkalau returning officer Muhia Njiraini confirmed that 9 out of 10 aspirants successfully submitted their nomination papers, with PLP candidate Paul Waiganjo withdrawing from the race. Njiraini urged candidates to maintain peace throughout the campaign period ahead of the July 16th by-election.
My plea to everybody in Olkalau is that we maintain peace. This is a word I've talked with all the candidates. I've given them the instructions to follow. I have shared with them the code of conduct, which I've taken them through, and we've agreed that it's going to be a very peaceful exercise.
Reporting for Prime Edition, I'm Aaron Murray.
On to a story Tom teased before we took our first commercial break. Stakeholders in the public sector are calling for urgent reforms to improve productivity and service delivery.
Salaries and Remuneration Commission Chairperson Sami Chapkwani says that productivity remains the biggest challenge, with employees in the private sector being 3.3 times more productive than their counterparts in the public sector.
Here is that report.
By Nancy Okware.
The head of governance and public service.
Speaking ahead of the National Productivity and Performance Conference, stakeholders in the public sector decried the widening productivity gap between the public and private sectors.
On average, comparing a private sector employee and a public sector employee, the private sector employee is 3.3 times more productive than the public sector colleague. Is it the way we pay our people that doesn't make them productive?
They attributed this to factors such as the operational environment and attitude among public servants.
For the longest time, as long as you go to the office as a public servant, you stay there until the end of the day and go home, the government will pay you a salary, regardless of what did you contribute to the people of Kenya when you are in the office that day.
So once we change that environment, the attitude, the culture, there is no reason why the public sector cannot even be more productive than the private sector.
Players in the public sector have been challenged to rethink how services are delivered to Kenyans by shifting focus from recognizing activity to measuring outcomes.
So the entire culture of the public service must change. People want service instantly, like yesterday, immediately. And our public servants must change in the way they deliver the service. We must change the tools we are using to deliver the service.
The last mile will be when that last person will receive the service
on time, in its best form, but also when it is not overpriced.
The National Productivity and Performance Conference will take place from the 17th to 19th of June 2026 under the theme Productivity for Fiscal Sustainability and Effective Service Delivery. Nancy Okware, Prime Edition.
African broadcasters are being urged to collaborate and share lessons learned about cloud migration and the incorporation of artificial intelligence in content production and monetization for regional growth in broadcasting.
Broadcasting and Telecommunications Principal Secretary Stephen Esaboke, who spoke Tuesday during the 5th East African Broadcasting Convention, rallied broadcasters to invest in infrastructure and strengthen regional collaboration to place East Africa and Africa at the forefront in the next era of global broadcasting innovation. Here is that report as compiled by Yusuf Farah.
The convention bringing together industry leaders, innovators, content creators, distributors and policymakers united by a shared commitment to shaping the future of broadcast media in Africa. So stakeholders call for Africa to actively participate in building, training and owning solutions that respond to the unique African context and aspirations for AI to truly serve the continent.
So we must intentionally build systems that understand African contexts, languages and cultures. AI must help preserve and amplify our indigenous narratives, not dilute them.
It must reflect African realities, languages, culture. We cannot just consume technology made elsewhere. We must participate in building it, training it, and owning solutions that work for us.
While acknowledging AI has transformed how media houses produce, distribute and consume content, newsrooms are being cautioned against over-reliance, especially at the age of misinformation and disinformation.
Reflect about AI as a brilliant assistant, not executor, that if AI is placed in the hands of people who do not understand it, we will have a very terrible editor-in-chief.
We will use AI, but at the end of the day, it is an editor who signs off the material that is published. We do not leave it to AI.
Despite the threat of artificial intelligence rendering several people jobless, investment in skills and capacity building have been identified as major contributors to preparing the workforce in different media houses for emerging technologies.
AI is not a threat, but the way we navigate by putting in place policies and guidelines, that is the threat. If we have to safeguard the future, then we have to look at what was the intention of the people who developed AI.
We are very much looking forward to having more collaborations within the African continent.
State agencies are subsequently being petitioned to invest the necessary infrastructure and come up with policies that will see the industry build an industry that is more connected, more inclusive, more competitive, and a true reflection of the African voice. Yusufar reporting for Prime Edition.
The convention continues tomorrow, bringing together at least 200 delegates from Africa and beyond. It's a three-day event, Tom.
It's a three-day event, absolutely.
Let's now cross over to other developments, Tom.
Kenya is now looking to sugarcane ethanol production as a solution to rising fuel costs and a strategy to revive the struggling sugar sector.
Speaking at the 68th International Sugar Organization Seminar in Diani, Deputy President Kithure Kindiki said the Sugar Act will be reviewed to support ethanol fuel blending in Kenya.
Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe called for leveraging of other sugarcane byproducts to secure the future of the sector.
We want to relook at the entire legislative framework on sugar and also develop certain regulations that can help us operationalize that law. The whole idea is first to go beyond promoting sugar production and the processing of sugar so that we diversify into the future.
In our nation, the sugar sector is focused purely on table sugar, so to speak. But there are many, many byproducts, and especially as we face the Middle East and hear of now a very famous place called the Strait of Hormuz, we now begin to think about ethanol very seriously, and the place that ethanol can play in terms of fueling the economies and the industries that we run, and the motor sector.
Do you know what's inside that prepackaged food? Those unhealthy ultra-processed foods high in sugar, salt or unhealthy fats can lead to diseases.
According to the Ministry of Health, approximately 39% of all deaths in Kenya are as a result of non-communicable diseases such as obesity, diabetes, cancer, and high blood pressure. The foods and drinks we consume every day can affect our health more than we realize.
Clear information on packages about what's in our food can help us have a healthy diet. From the Food Policy Coalition Kenya.
I've always competed with them, trying to see who's best. Just like that. I've battled my whole life. Today, my last rival has left me.
Welcome back to the third part of this live broadcast, our socials.
At KBC Channel 1, at KBC Digital. Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi has stressed the need for Kenya to adopt speedy and flexible innovation approaches as a turning point for its future within the growing global digital and ICT markets.
Speaking during the flag-off ceremony for the students who will be representing Kenya at the Huawei ICT competition global finals in Shenzhen, China, early next month, the Cabinet Secretary called for increased investment in science, technology, and innovation, noting that research should not be treated as a peripheral activity, but as a key driver of economic transformation, job creation, and industrial growth.
Mudavadi further urged young innovators to focus on developing practical solutions that address national challenges such as food security, productivity, and sustainable livelihoods, calling on academic research to be directly linked to the needs within the job market.
The percentage of research resources that we are allocating in relation to our GDP is very modest. We are below the 1% threshold, I think, at about 0.7% of our research resources go to GDP. So we want to try and see if we can step up and be able to reach a 2% of our GDP dedicated to research and innovation. We can do so by working in collaboration with Huawei and other partners, both within the private sector and within the public sector, so that we can enhance this and therefore accelerate the capacity of Kenya to be on the innovation path.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Water, Sanitation and Irrigation Cabinet Secretary Engineer Eric Muga says that government is developing an irrigation modality that will ensure that the country is water secure.
He was addressing the Getting Wise conference that is taking place at the United Nations headquarters in Gigiri, Nairobi, under the theme, Measuring Human Experiences with Water to Advance the African Union's Water Vision 2063.
Water Insecurity Experiences founder Professor Sarah Young said that water security depends on its availability, access, and political goodwill.
the process of developing what we are calling KRISE, the Kenya Resilient Irrigation and Sustainable Economies, which is first of all to ensure there is water security. And also we need to have a centralized data system. The ministry has put efforts to develop the water compact, the financing plans that we have to ensure that we actually provide people with this resource.
Water security exists when 4 criteria are met. The first one is physical availability. The second domain is access, and that means can people get to it? So can they walk to it? Is it being brought to them by pipes? Can they afford it?
The Kenya Revenue Authority has recorded a 10% rise in the number of people who have filed their returns by Monday, the 25th of May, compared to the number that had filed around the same period last year.
Approximately 2 million people had filed their returns by Monday evening compared to 1.7 million that had filed the same period last year.
The taxman attributes the rise to the newly unveiled self-care plan for filing returns through WhatsApp or a short code number.
Now, through the File and Pay campaign dubbed Jijue Jibeta, KRA and its media partner, the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, staged sensitization campaigns in Taita Taveta County with stops in Yundanyi, Mwatate, Caltex Kwa Sofia, Kaloleni and Voi, where hundreds of eligible taxpayers were assisted to file their returns through the self-care plan.
I am so happy today because what you guys have done for Mukere, it is faster, reliable. Big up to this team. Without you noticing, you are sorted. Right now I'm sorted, na niko sawa. Uko nje siju kama unangoja nini. Check out. These guys are real. Check the link, file your return. It's quite challenging because sometimes maybe rush hour, you know the Kenya, sometimes we go for the rush hours, late hours. Find a lot of trafficking, system downloading. But with this new style, actually you're just doing it without you noticing. Super crazy and I'm happy.
Wa dakika 15 tu tuseme ndo nikafaulu. Furahia kupata mwavuli. Nashukuru sana na Mungu awabariki.
Well, those sensitization campaigns went through Mwatate, Caltex, Kwa Sofia, Kaloleni, Voi, Taita Taveta, with stops in?
Wundanyi.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. We got that one right. Yeah. Now, residents of Rabango village in Rangwe constituency, that's in Homa Bay County, have staged a protest over poor infrastructure and lack of essential services, saying that the situation has disrupted education, healthcare, and transport in the area.
Details on this and more in our County News Watch.
Speaking during the demonstration, the residents said the poor state of the road, worsened by the heavy rains, had isolated Rapango village, denying them access to schools, hospitals and neighboring villages.
Sisi kama wakazi wa Rabango, tuko na shida sana kuhusu barabara. Tuko na shule hapa kubwa inaitwa Rabango. Hakuna venye wanafunzi wanaweza pita hii mtoni wafike katika shule. Tunaomba mbunge wetu Liliana Chiengogo, tafadhali utusaidie. Tunataka barabara.
In Mombasa, the Kenya International Freight and Warehousing Association has announced plans to conduct fresh elections for its Mombasa branch as directed by the Registrar of Societies, urging members to remain calm as the court case challenging the previous poll continues.
The Registrar of Societies on 20th of April 2026 requested the Secretariat and members that we should hold fresh elections for Mombasa branch.
On public service, National Government Administration officers will actively champion government programs at the grassroots to enlighten members of the public. Elsewhere, Kenya Power and Lighting Company KPLC is moving towards large-scale adoption of electric mobility to maximize on the government's duty exemption to the first 100,000 imported electric vehicles.
Taking into account that every urban center in Kenya has access to electricity, 100%. Therefore, everywhere these vehicles are sent, they will find Kenya Power there and will be able to power them. This one, with the current fuel prices, this is going to be a large saving 3,000 vehicles in the population of the current Kenyan population is a good point to start.
In Kisumu, the International Justice Mission and other civil society actors have unveiled social justice centers in Kondele and Manyata informal settlements to facilitate confidential reports by victims of human rights abuses. And the Luo Council of Elders has challenged politicians and government officials from the region to rally the community towards unity before elections.
It must clearly be stated that personal ambition must never override collective interest. Those who choose division over unity must be reminded that history has never favored disorganized leadership.
A very good evening to you from wherever you're watching us from. This is Prime Edition Business. My name is Trevor Ngendo. We begin with agriculture production and Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa head of resilience, Tilahone Mede, is rooting for fast-tracking of public-private partnerships to increase investments in the agriculture sector so as to build climate resilience, reduce food imports and create local wealth. Here is Benson Rioba with the details.
Agriculture accounts for only 4% of the total commercial loan book in Kenya, as the sector grapples with limited working capital due to what financiers attribute to high risk. Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa head of resilience, Talihan Amede, is calling for measures that would de-risk agriculture to make it attractive for investors.
You know, there's a lot of concern when they come to Africa. Even our own investors are investing elsewhere because of the uncertainty, security issues in the continent, but also policies that are hindering investment.
To invest on extension services from a public perspective, but as well from a partnership perspective, think about that last mile opportunities.
Among areas that need enhanced investments is construction of organic manure plants, as well as soil testing services to help tackle the issue of acidic soils and complement the government's subsidized fertilizer program.
So the resources are there, the capacity there. It's really what's lacking is the coordination and probably the initial investment that's required to take that to scale.
We should encourage the use of more organic fertilizers under our subsidy programs, and it may also be a question of other ways that we can support them in finding places to work, ways to access biomass, and so on.
They say investments in commercialization of hybrid seeds will increase access of clean planting material by smallholder farmers, which will ultimately boost yields and reduce importation of food.
So the deficit is not necessarily that we don't have the land for it. I think the deficit is the right technologies in the hands of farmers with the right agronomic practices can actually go from double, in some cases triple yield on the same land.
Benson Rioba, reporting for Prime Edition.
Moving on, real estate developers and fund managers are moving to align their offerings with the shifting investor trends as high borrowing costs, tighter liquidity and currency volatility continue to reshape capital flows. The Two Rivers International Finance and Innovation Center Special Economic Zone has unveiled a Green Income Real Estate Investment Trust aimed at tapping institutional capital for sustainable infrastructure developments. Take a look. The real estate sector is increasingly turning to alternative financing models as developers grapple with expensive credit, weak uptake in some property segments, and a cautious investor environment that has slowed traditional construction financing. The latest entry into the market is a dollar-denominated income real estate investment trust backed by the Two Rivers International Finance and Innovation Center Special Economic Zone.
This is an instrument that will be placed on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. This green US dollar IREIT presents to the market an 8-floor building that is currently domiciled at the Two Rivers ecosystem.
It's for a niche market for multinationals that are coming to set up in Kenya who are looking for more plug-and-play offices, grade A offices that are, they fit the sustainability criteria for the markets and the regulators who regulate them back home, and also the tax breaks that they get by operating in a special economic zone.
Dollar-denominated structures are becoming more attractive to pension funds, insurers and diaspora investors seeking protection against currency volatility and inflationary risks.
So we've come up with a market-making process, and that market-making process allows you as a unit holder, when you want to exit, there'll be someone else on the other side to acquire that particular stake.
You may participate by placing $1,000, which will give you 1,000 shares in this IREIT. What happens is that it's a US dollar-denominated IREIT, and the dividend yield is 8%, which is payable twice a year.
Investors will get payouts derived from rental income generated within the mixed-use special economic zone development. On worker wellness now, and human resource managers should prioritize accountability and employee well-being as institutions grapple with economic pressures and rising workplace challenges. Institute of Human Resource Management Chairperson Philip Odero is now urging human resource leaders to create supportive working environments that protect workers while businesses remain resilient. Speaking in Mombasa, Odero said improving employee wellness and fostering inclusive workplaces would be critical to boosting productivity.
We must ask ourselves, are our workforce structures fit for purpose? Are we attracting and retaining the right skills? Are our performance systems driving productivity or merely generating paperwork? Are our leaders preparing future talent or simply managing the present? The answers to these questions will depend whether our institutions remain relevant, agile, and effective.
There is an urgent need to strengthen accountability and ethical leadership across our institutions.
Look at the bottom-up economic agenda, the Kenya Vision 2030, every framework that talks about people, it's all anchored on people, whether it's on social aspect, economic aspect, political aspect, all of it, we can only achieve it through human resource.
HF Group PLC has rebranded to HFCB as part of efforts to strengthen integration across its financial services and property businesses. HFCB Group CEO Robert Kibara says the transition is intended to create a more unified structure capable of delivering seamless services to customers across different business segments. The move comes as HFCB Group posted a 45% increase in 2026 first quarter net profit to 475.5 million shillings, driven by higher interest income.
Traditionally, we have been operating in different names for different subsidiaries. For instance, the banking subsidiary has had its own name, the property business has had its own name, the insurance business has had its own name, and the group has had its own name. And what that means then is that this change is bringing that all together into a cohesive, single, forward-looking brand. What that means for customers is that we can have now unified, simplified solutions, and they can actually be able to enjoy these services served by a single relationship, what we are calling all under one roof.
Has reported 1.6 billion shillings in net profit during the first 3 months of this year, representing a 52.6% increase that was driven by interest income. During the period, net interest income surged 45.4% to 4.7 billion shillings.
Family Bank increased its net loans and advances to customers by 12.6% to 108.4 billion shillings. The increased lending pushed up Family Bank's total assets by 32.3% to 230.2 billion shillings. However, the increased lending resulted in higher gross non-performing loans that rose 15.27% to 17.1 billion shillings. From the loans and advances, the lender made 6.94 billion shillings in total interest income, representing a 26.5% growth on the 5.48 billion shillings recorded during a similar period last year. This was mainly on account of higher interest income on loans and advances, as well as on government securities. However, Family Bank booked 1.32 billion shillings in non-interest income, representing a 22.5% reduction. This was mainly on account of lower income that dipped from 982.5 million shillings to 548 million shillings. Total operating cost rose 7.6% to 3.7 billion shillings due to increased investment in technology and branch optimization. Family Bank Chief Executive Officer Nancy Njau says the continued growth in the bank's profitability, assets and capital strength demonstrate the effectiveness of the long-term strategy as they position the bank for sustained growth and stability. Customer deposits expanded 27.1% to 168.1 billion shillings.
And globally, farmers in Gaza are now turning to improvised farming methods like growing vegetables and herbs in recycled food cans inside temporary greenhouses after the war destroyed large swathes of agricultural land. Facing acute shortages of farming supplies, many farmers in southern Gaza are now reusing empty aid cans to cultivate crops such as mint in an effort to sustain livelihoods and food production amid conflicts devastation. Here are the details of this and other stories making headlines across the borders.
Inside makeshift greenhouses in southern Gaza, farmers are filling empty tins from aid kitchens with soil and seedlings as an alternative to nylon planting materials that have become scarce during the conflict. Farmers say Israel's designation of what Palestinians call the Yellow Zone has left only a fraction of Gaza's farmland accessible, while working the land often exposes them to gunfire. The United Nations says agriculture accounted for around 10% of Gaza's economy before the war, with more than 560,000 Palestinians depending on farming, fishing, or livestock for income. About 86% of Gaza's agricultural land has been destroyed since the war began in 2023, forcing farmers to improvise new ways to keep production going, particularly for aromatic plants and vegetables. Meanwhile, Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian has ordered the restoration of international internet access to levels seen before unrest erupted in January. Iran imposed sweeping internet restrictions on January 8th after nationwide protests over economic hardships and the sharp depreciation of the rial escalated into clashes that caused casualties and damage to public property. Iranian authorities accused the United States and Israel of fueling the unrest. Access was briefly restored after weeks of disruption before restrictions were tightened again on February 28th, following joint U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran, according to Iranian media reports. Finally, the price of Brent crude oil rose 1.5% to $97.56 per barrel on Tuesday morning after U.S. strikes on facilities in Iran. Prior to this, the price had fallen by about 7% the previous day. The market remains tense due to risk of further escalation of the conflict. U.S. Central Command stated that the U.S. military attacked Iranian targets in the south of the country, including boats allegedly attempting to lay mines, as well as missile launch sites. The Pentagon says the strikes were aimed at protecting the U.S. troops from threats emanating from Iranian forces.
Lights on, volume up. This is where stories come alive. From local drama that hits close to home
Huyu ni nani?
Alinivamia akiwa na vijana wengine wawili.
Toka nje. Hii nyumba yako. Yote ni porojo.
To international series everyone's talking about. Stories that pull you in. Characters you won't forget.
Stop complaining and just get out of here. Go now. Go, go.
We turn up the volume with music that moves, showcases rising stars and bring the beat straight to your living room. And when it's time to talk, we don't hold back.
How is everything going?
Real conversations, big personalities, the issues, the loves, the moment everyone's debating the next day. Every show, every night, different voices, one destination. This is television that feels alive, unpredictable, and missable.
Let's now get sporty. The FKF President Hussein Mohamed has welcomed the World Football Governing Body FIFA's decision to disregard the suspension imposed by dissenting members who had suspended him on allegations of corruption.
Addressing the media today after meeting all Sportpesa League club officials, Mohamed extended an olive branch to the opposition within the federation to work together for the betterment of the game.
The president reaffirmed the federation's commitment to continue adhering to the country's constitution and FKF statutes and to continue cooperation with FIFA and CAF to ensure continuity in football activities.
In its communique, FIFA emphasized the need for all the FKF officials to operate within its constitutional framework all the time.
We cannot tolerate impunity. We cannot live our lives smearing others or believing that you can run a smear campaign on other people without consequences. And I think today's letter is an affirmation of what I have been saying all along, that due process is very important, but most critical to this particular situation is that football is in safe hands now. I want to give you the confidence that we are going to move on with speed in terms of regularizing our situation. My door is open. Football unites us. Football is supposed to bring us together. Football is not supposed to divide us. So this is an opportunity for all stakeholders who are willing to take us forward, who are willing to work as a team, to come on board and help Kenyan football grow.
Sheila Chanjira is on the start line for the Kenya National Women's Rugby 15s team, which is scheduled to face Madagascar tomorrow in the Rugby Africa Women's Cup performance. Division matches at the RFUA grounds here in Nairobi, Kenya.
This is according to the lineup that was released today by head coach Simon Adogo. Maureen Muritu, who was one of the try scorers in the Lionesses' opening match against the Lady Cranes of Uganda, will start as fly half, while woman of the match Faith Livoy and speedster Janet Okello will be at the center.
The team will be captained by Natasha Emali, who will also start the match with the vice captain and scrum half Judy Auma among the replacements.
The Kenya Lionesses are currently placed second on the table after they overpowered the Lady Cranes of Uganda 43-10 over the weekend, while South Africa are in the pole position following their overwhelming 64-5 opening victory against Madagascar.
The Islanders are at the relegation from Division 1 if they don't improve their performance by the end of the tournament.
The Kenya national women and men beach volleyball teams are back in the country, having secured their ticket at the CAVB Continental Beach Cup after finishing second in The Zone 5 qualifiers are the Sawa Sawa Beach in Tanzania.
Veronica Adiambo and Selina Gambo managed to beat Burundian pair of Pamela Irakoze and Emmanuel Ndayikaregiye in their last match. So did Charlene Sembet and Sharon Kogei to finish second behind Egypt.
The Kenyan men's pair of Richard Amutali and Anthony Chimani were beaten in straight sets by the Egyptian pair of George Bahit and Yusuf Awad in the final decider, and so did the other pair of Naftali Chumba and Regan Kipchirchir to settle for the runners-up position.
Nevertheless, both nations advanced to the Continental Beach Cup, where they will also be fighting for an Olympic slot. The World Athletics Council has approved the qualification system and entry standards to the 2027 World Athletic Championships in Beijing.
For the 2027 World Championships, the system has been set with the objective of having approximately 40% of the athletes qualifying through entry standards and 60% qualifying through world rankings.
The approach is designed to ensure that world champions continue to bring together world's leading athletes across all disciplines, while recognizing both exceptional single performances and consistent high-level competition across the qualification period.
The qualifying window for the marathon runs from the 3rd of November 2025 to midnight on the 2nd of May 2027. For the 10,000 meters race walking combined events and relays, the window runs from 23rd February 2026 to midnight 22nd August 2027.
For all other disciplines, entry standards can be achieved from the 23rd of August 2026 to midnight and on the 22nd of August 2027. Well, that's all we had time for on Prime Edition. We want to thank you so much for watching, and it's now time for us to exit the studio, and we'll do it all over again next week, especially me and Muchuma on Monday and Tuesday.
Thank you for your feedback on our social media platforms. Tom, if you don't mind, just a few acknowledgements. Welton Salam, watching all the way from Wasingishu. Kim Leo Lucius, watching from Kitale. Michael Ferrol, watching from Nairobi. Samuel Magori, watching from Kitengela. This is in regards to a story on government-aligned MPs opposing reduction of levies on fuel. And you can get all these on our social media platforms at KBC Digital, at KBC Channel 1. Your company is always appreciated. I am Muchuma Odim. Our sign language expert tonight is Caroline Njoroge.
And I'm Trevor Ngendo. Thank you always for your valued company. Have a blessed night ahead, and happy Eid Mubarak to all our Muslim brothers and sisters.
Good night. I'm Mboya. Bye-bye.
Wakenya, ni wakati mwingine wa kuhakikisha kuwa umefile KRA returns. Je, uko rada una challenge yoyote? Usiwe na shaka, KRA wakishirikiana na KBC Channel 1 wanakuja hapo ulipo kusaidia kufile returns na kulipia ushuru wako. Jiunge na msafara wa KRA Roadshow, uwe fiti mambo ya returns.
Tarehe 28 Mei tutashuka katika kaunti ya Kitui katika maeneo ya Kaseve, Masii, Makutano, Wamunyu, Katangi, kwa Vonza, alafu tumalizie Kitui Town.
Tarehe 30 Juni kwa mlangoni. Usingoje hadi dakika za mwisho. File KRA returns mapema. Ishi bila stress. Jijue, jibeta. KRA, tulipe ushuru, tujitegemee.
Nairobi is now. Masani ya kutoka blog na KBC imeamua lazima uomoke. Tutakuwa tunakaa mtaa yako kukuomosha very fast. Jibu maswali zangu 3 tu. Tuone kama kweli wewe ni true fan wa KBC Channel 1. Na ukizipata 25K ni yako. So make sure una watch KBC Channel 1. Alafu kinicheki kwa streets. Niulize kana kuomosha leo. Omoka na KBC Channel 1. Wanga bad ni mbaya.
Sema niko na kichaa.
Cheki, mstasikiza hizi opinion zako za.
Siko namaanisha hivyo.
Shika.
Nitampigia babako simu.
Niki damanu. Kibiki.
Wewe ndo unaharibu Josh kichwa wewe. Umepanga